Everyone, welcome back after lunch. I'm your host Richard Hagan, the Proto Statistician, alongside the Proto Historian Brian David Marshall. The quarterfinals are done of Proto San Juan, and let us take you through how the morning went. We started off BDM with 8 players, of course, coming to draft, and an interesting draft format, just Rise of the Eldrazi, so all the way up to 15 Emrakul. We saw some killer rares, we saw some great magic. Take us through the morning.
Well, we started out looking over the shoulder of Paulo Vitor Damarosa as he attempted to get out of the quarterfinals for the first time in his last 5 top 8 appearances. We watched him go pretty much quickly into a green-black removal plan. He said he was going into the draft looking for Grixis, but said, I'm pretty happy being green plus removal. The draft worked out very well for him. He ended up with a couple of Vendettas. He started off on a Corpse Hatch. Some good creatures came. He got a Revenant pretty late in the middle of the draft, which was a very nice gift for him, and we saw that card finish him off. He played against his teammate Josh Utter-Layton, who did not have as successful a draft.
No, he struggled, and to be fair, 3-2 is probably as good as he, well, perhaps not as hoped, but certainly as expected. He was someone who's played enough to go, yeah, that wasn't a 3-0 draft.
This wasn't the deck I visualized going into this draft.
No, so I would imagine he's back on Magic Online by now. He's had his lunch and it's like back to the drawing board, but he will be back, and it's a great relief when you've made your first Proto Top 8. You've proved to yourself you can be there and that you belong not just in a virtual environment but in an actual chair across the table.
And this is a guy who's been really shaping metagames for a couple of seasons now. The decks he plays online are the decks that you're playing against 2 weeks later at Friday Night Magic. He's really a very, very significant player in the Magic deck construction scene.
So that was Paulo Vitor Damarosa edging out Josh Utter-Layton in 5 pretty tough games. Be interesting to see whether that has taken anything out of the Brazilian, because he advances to the semi-final. Now he will play Noah Swartz of the United States, the 21-year-old from Cleveland, Ohio. He defeated Jeremy Neiman, the Australian, only the 3rd Australian to make a Pro Tour Top 8. Neiman had a 4-color deck based in 2, Splash 2, and it didn't quite come together for him. Noah going with this leveling plan and really learning on the fly. Block constructed 10-0, draft 2-4. Zvi, John, help me, I'm in the Proto Top 8 in its draft.
Right, Zvi was very, very insistent that if Noah was not sure what the best draft strategy going into this was, he wanted him to draft levelers. He said, nobody likes this deck. None of the pros want to be white. You should be taking these cards. You will get paid off very late in packs with cards that are very valuable for your archetype and not very valuable for other archetypes. And it's going to end. We saw him get past the Transcendent Master.
Caravan Escort, Ikiral Outrider, Kabira Vindicator, on we go, Knight of Cliffhaven, Transcendent Master, Coral Helm Commander, 2 Enclave Cryptologist, Hadda Spy Patrol, Halimar Wave Watch.
Did you say Time of Heroes?
Oh, I didn't mention Time of Heroes, but that's the thing that makes the leveler so good, one of them. He did not, however, get the Venerated Teachers. They've gone elsewhere, and they are still live in this draft. So Swartz defeats Neiman by 3-1, and will face Paulo Vitor Damarosa in semi-final 1. Now, semi-final 2 is between the oldest player left in the tournament and the youngest player left in the tournament. And we begin with the very cool 18-year-old Andrea Giarola of Italy, and he defeated Kotaro Otsuka, vastly experienced level 6 Japanese pro, by 3-2, and just didn't seem to bat an eyelid.
Yeah, he's playing a pretty straightforward deck, green-red. He's got some walls, he's got some token generators, he's got some Might of the Masses. Reminded me a lot of the decks that Bastian Perez was drafting at Pro Tour Kobe, where you were dealing with strength in numbers and that kind of stuff. It was just a very straightforward deck. Just kind of, obliterated his opponent. Just pushed right through. Might of the Masses for the, semi-final seat.
Absolutely. So Girola defeats Otsuka, so no Japanese representative left in the tournament. And then we had a transatlantic clash between Guillaume Matignon of France against Brad Nelson, the hottest fan in Magic. He won Grand Prix Washington, D.C., 1,932 players, which rivals the biggest the world has ever seen. Only 2 events have ever gone bigger than that. And it's nice to see that we've got some great viewers already coming into the auditorium live. The fans are in. We love you, BDM. We love you, Rich. It's always nice to see them with better things to do with their time. Lovely. Thanks, guys. You're very kind. So tell us about Guillaume Matignon's 3-0 win over Brad.
Well, I mean, Guillaume has a training grounds. He opened up one of the, just great cards in this format. He opened up a Gul'dan's Assassin.
-2/-2 along the way, and then -4/-4 once it's leveled up.
He saw training grounds in his for his second pick.
Yep.
Was blue-black levelers. Is a little short on the levelers for the deck, but he does have 2 Zoff Shades to get some extra value out of his training grounds.
That's right, because it's not just leveling that gets 2, it's the activation costs, and Zoff Shade, activation 2 in a black, that just becomes black.
Right.
So it's just super pump for him. And Brad Nelson's deck didn't really come together.
No, Brad, when I walked over to Brad during deck construction, he said, we're going to have some fun. He showed me 3 raid bombardments. He said, if I win this Pro Tour with this deck, I'm going to get myself a Pimp Cane. Doesn't need one, unfortunately.
No, but he again has shown that it's all about the process for him, and he's playing great Magic, and the wins come, and I think he's pretty happy with his performance this weekend. And sure, the draft didn't work out, but he's not sitting in a corner crying.
Oh, and he wasn't stressed about his draft. This is how the draft went. I could have done this, or I could have done this, but this is what I did. This is what I have to play with. Let's see how it works out. It'd be great if I could win. We'll have a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So that will be our second semi-final. We'll get to some of that as the afternoon goes on. Matignon then with black-blue levelers, Barleged Scorpion, the pair of Zoff Shade. We have the Cadaver Imp bringing something back, Frostwind Invoker, the double Venerated Teacher, Induce Despair, Deprive, pair of Sea Beyond just to get a little bit further into the deck, well-named card, Narcolepsy, Double Vendetta, the Training Grounds BDM's talked about, and then here's the leveling package. You've got Skywatcher Adept, the Gruuldraz Assassin that he opened with, Zulaport Enforcer, a pair of Null Champion, Lighthouse Chronologist, and the Champion's Drake that runs off the levelers, a 4/4 flyer, pretty unexciting otherwise. Then on the other side you've got Giarola, this green-red, pretty... it's a familiar looking deck. It's a bunch of monsters that are pretty reasonable. There's some walls going on. Emrakul's Hatcher, Double Vent Sentinel, Soul Surge Elemental, the X-Power First Striker, 2 Battle Rattle Shaman again to increase damage, Wrap in Flames, that could be an interesting card, getting some blockers out of the way to punch through damage, Rage Nimbus, the 5/3 flying defender that can force things to attack, Battle Rampart, Spawning Breath and Heat Ray, a little bit of removal, Double Nest Invader, Overgrown Battlement, Growth Spasm, again more mana coming through, Wild Heart Invoker, the 4/3, Kozilek's Predator, Jadi Lifestrider, the 2/8 if he's in trouble, he can tap a bunch of tokens, maybe gain 8, 10, 12 life, and then you've got Palaka Worm, one of my favourite cards in the format, right up the top, Ulamog's Crusher, 8/8 for 8, Annihilate, and he ends up with the Warmonger's Chariot, making his walls not walls, and making anything else just +2/+2. So who do you take there and why between the black-blue of Matignon and the green-red of Giarola?
I mean, maybe it's a personal deck preference, but I like Guillaume Matignon in this matchup. I love the Assassin. There's not a lot of ways for Giarola's deck.
He's going to look for the Heat Ray, isn't he?
To deal with it, right? Yeah. There's a limited number of options. And it's just a very, very solid deck that's capable of jumping out ahead with the Venerated Teachers, really gaining a lot of mana. The Training Grounds, the Soft Shades could be really difficult for Giarola to deal with as well. I like the matchup a lot.
All right, so BDM takes Matignon over Giarola, so there will be a European in the final. And then we wait to see whether the last remaining American, Noah Schwartz, can down the Brazilian hotshot Paulo Vida Dama de Rosa. Let's look at those decks. And BDM, take us through Noah's leveling deck. We kick off with Caravanesco. He's just got so many of these levelers.
He's got as many as he can fit in there. He's got the Knight of Cliffhaven. He's got the Outrider. He's got Kabira Vindicator.
Double Enclave Cryptologist.
Double Enclave Cryptologist is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
That's very exciting. He's also got the Korlham Commander on sort of the rare end of the leveling spectrum.
And the thing is, often players they start off, they look at cards and they go, oh, I haven't got many merfolk to go with that. Forget that.
Pretty good all on his own.
It's a 4/4 flyer. Yeah. Thanks. So no complaints there at all. He has the Time of Heroes. That's the card that sort of ramps from good that could be getting better to now I'm really silly. Because your 2-2s are 4-4s. When you have the 3-4s, they're suddenly 5-6s, and that's such a ramp.
Does Transcendent Master really need the +2/+2?
Transcendent Master needs nothing other than to stay alive for a few turns. If you've not played with Transcendent Master before, this is one of those games where Magic can look entirely different to normal Magic. You can have one player sitting with 4, 5, 6 creatures on one side of the board. On the other side, there's this little innocuous 3 casting cost white guy, and you see the 3/3 sitting there, and then you go, well, actually, I pumped 6 mana into it. It was a 6/6 lifelink, and then a little bit later, turned out to be 9/9 lifelink. Oh, and by the way, it's indestructible. And it turns out that's the game right there, just that one permanent sitting on your side of the board. Very exciting card.
There's really only 3 ways in Paulo's deck for him to deal with that card. He's got a pair of Vendettas and he's got a Corpse Hatch. There's an Emerge Unscathed sitting in Noah's deck, which could make things a little tricky for the Brazilian. I think Transcendent Master could be the card that this match hinges around, and the Coralhelm Commander as well, the 4/4 flyer.
Okay, well, on Paolo's side of the board, we begin with Tree Speaker, a Jiraga Tree Speaker, a pair of Bloodthrone Vampires so that he can sacrifice to make them much bigger, Null Champion, Pawn of Alamog, that's a token generator, Arrogant Bloodlord, the 4/4 for just 3 mana, Awakening Zone we saw doing lots of good work in the quarterfinal
Especially
against...
with the Brood Warden.
Exactly, with Josh Otter-Layton, and BDM's mentioned there, the Brood Warden, 4/4 for 5, but it turns all the tokens from 0/1 nothingnesses into 2/2 beaters, and that can make a huge difference.
And that's a card Noah doesn't really have a lot of answers for.
Sure.
And by not a lot of answers, I mean a regress. That's about really all he has.
Really?
If somehow he can get Paulo to attack with it, there's a smite. But I don't know that Paulo's going to fall for that trick, since these guys have had a chance to review each other's deck lists.
That's right. They had a bite to eat together, and then they went, what are you going to try and do against me?
Right.
Absolutely. We have Jadi Life Strider, Artisan of Kozilek up at the top end for Paolo. Again, we saw do sterling work in the quarterfinals. Dreamstone Hedron, an indication of this format. If you're thinking, how does this mana work if you're new to Rise of the Eldrazi? Listen, Dreamstone Hedron can accelerate you 3, but Paolo just had so much mana throughout that quarterfinal. Every time you drew the Hedron, it was just, I'll draw 3 cards.
I'd play with 3 Mind Stones, wouldn't you?
Exactly, which is of course precisely what it is, just by the by, in terms of design, if you're into that kind of thing. Absolutely, a very cleverly designed card referencing a card that's seen a lot of play down the years, Mind Stone. So then the removal suite for Paolo. He has Last Kiss, he has 2 Vendetta, Corpse Hatch, the kind of edge my way back into things. 2 Essence Feed, then he's got 2 Dread Drone, and then the biggie for him is Nakana Revenant. That's the card that makes you feel just so powerful. So that is the lineup for the semi-finals. The final is within striking distance, but one more opponent needs to be vanquished first. Let's get to it. It's time for the Pro Tour San Juan semi-finals. So any second now we have Paolo Vita Dama de Rosa against Noah Schwartz.
So who are you picking in that match?
Well, I'm going to go with Paolo, because even though I know he would ultimately lose the final because he lost round 1, and nobody loses round 1 and wins the Pro Tour, I'd like to see him in the final, and I'd like to sweat a bit over that. So I'll take Paolo over Noah.
I'll take Noah because I've got his brother within eye shot of me, and since there's no protective glass to stop him from throwing a pen at me,
okay,
I have to pick Noah here.
All right, so you have a Noah Schwartz Guillaume Matignon final, correct?
I do.
I think you would have got pretty good odds in Vegas on that at the start of the weekend, my friend. I take Paolo and probably Guillaume Matignon as one. So let's count it down from 8 to 7 to 6 to 5. Now there are 4. It's time for the Pro Tour San Juan semi-finals. Welcome everyone to the Pro Tour San Juan semi-finals with me, Rich Hagan, and Brian David Marshall, bringing you all the action of the Final Four here at the back end of May, the second Pro Tour of 2010. Simon Gertzen already in the books as the Pro Tour San Diego champion. 4 remain. You see Noah Schwartz on the right of your screen from the United States of America, and he is facing the 6-time Pro Tour top 8 Paulo Vitor da Rosa of Brazil.
Paulo makes the first play. He's got a blood-thrown vampire.
And turn 2 coming up, we see Knight of Cliffhaven. That's
one of the signature cards in the leveler deck. There's an Awakening Zone from Paulo to make that blood-thrown vampire pretty scary pretty quickly.
Absolutely. Noah draws for the turn. Looks like he's got plenty of mana sitting there in hand, so there will not be a problem there. Knight of Cliffhaven, just a great card in and of itself. He's going to send it in knowing that it's very unlikely Paulo will block with the blood-thrown vampire, not to say certain. So land number 3 comes down for Noah. And he runs out. Is that a Dawn Glare Invoker?
Yep.
So the
one of the really defining cards in this limited format.
It's one of those store breakers, isn't it? Because you get to 8 mana and you just say, alright, I'm going to tap everything, then I'm going to waltz in and kill you.
Yeah, I'm just going to tap everything and kill you slowly over the next couple of turns.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. So back comes the vampire. The token arrives for Paulo and gets sacrificed promptly to get him to 4 mana, and that's because Ondu Giant can accelerate him out further. You see a swamp coming into play. Remember that every swamp down the line for Paulo could eventually turn into double black mana for his big powerhouse finisher, the Nakana Revenant. So he passes back to Noah, who has looked icy cool all weekend, even in the face of a 4-round losing streak in draft that took him from 7-0 to 7-4. He pulled himself together and came back strong down the stretch to make it in.
He's going to level up the Knight of Cliffhaven and fly over for 4.
Yep. And Paulo says, yep, 14.
Is he going to guard duty that blood-thrown vampire? No.
He's just going to pass. At the moment, he's quite happy for that to occur. So Eldrazi Spawn token turns up courtesy of the Awakening Zone, and Paulo will send his men sideways. Oh, changes his mind. Says, hang on, let me just check. He's got a skeletal worm in hand, and then he does say, yep, in I come.
Take 3.
And then
now it drops to 17.
Paulo looking at 5 cards. Taps 4. And there's Wild Heart Invoker for Paulo.
You don't have to get the 8 traditional mana for that card when you have the Awakening Zone.
Absolutely.
The
That's
spawn
going to
tokens, you have to be on top of your math here.
Yes, absolutely.
Especially with the blood-thrown vampire, which can get a lot of tricky combat situations here.
Indeed, and that's something that Paulo really excels at. We saw in the quarterfinal, mostly when he was on defense against Josh, where he was constantly making the blocks that at least made his opponent think. I mean, there was one particular game where he blocked perfectly, still lost the game,
right.
But he absolutely said, you will have to do everything correctly to get past me. See ya. Totem Guide Heart Beast in hand for Noah. Guard Duty. Looks like McKinley Griffin, the 2/4 flyer for 4. Sitting there in hand. 6 cards for Noah right now. And Noah says, well, I'm in the air. You're not. Let's go to the air. As those of you with a certain amount of geographical knowledge will know, it turns out Puerto Rico is an island, and virtually every flight out of this island tomorrow is packed with nothing but Pro Tour attendees, it turns out.
Some staff.
I believe, yeah, pretty much.
He plays a guard duty on the Wild Heart Invoker.
Which will not, of course, turn the ability off. That's something that beginner players think, okay, I've stopped it doing what it does. No, you've just stopped it turning sideways to attack. So it can still use its activated ability at 8.
But Noah's mounting quite an Air Force. He's got 6 in the air right now.
Absolutely. Altran flying beatdown.
And we have a report from the other match. Guillaume Matignon is going to be taking extra turns.
What's he going to be doing?
He's going to be taking additional turns after his opponent's next turn. He has fully leveled up a Lighthouse Chronologist.
Eek.
So he's like, I would like to play every 2 turns for every 1 turn you get in this game.
Okay, I'm guessing that might not be ideal if you're Italian.
I'm sure he's unfazed.
Yes, indeed. He's un-main phased, he's un-combat phased, he's un-end-stepped. So, Paolo, looking at this Air Force on the other side of the table for Noah Swartz. And again, you see a card like Knight of Cliffhaven that, yes, it is a leveler, but this is not about being a leveler deck. This is just about being a cheap, efficient flyer. Right. So Paolo comes back to work with the Ondu Giant and the Bloodthrone Vampire, sends them in. The Wild Heart Invoker has to stay at home on guard duty. And Awakening Zone starting to churn out the tokens at the top of your screen and beyond. No blocks.
Yeah, Noah's got Apollo on a 2-possession clock here.
Yep, 10 will go to 4 and 4 will go to -2, which is significantly less than the required number. Paolo, though, has 5 cards and
it's going to last cast the... Now we're up to a 3-possession game.
So away goes Dawnglare Invoker. Still has the McKinley Griffin and Knight of Cliffhaven to deal with as Noah untaps. We know he has the Totem Guide Heart Beast. As Paolo looks at a hand that looks like all action. Skeletal Worm, looks like he may have a Vendetta in hand. Noah, meanwhile, looks like he may have a second McKinley
yeah, he does.
Griffin there, so there's going to be more flying through the air in Paolo's future unless he can stabilize.
No, the problem is that Bloodthrone Vampire is
getting to silly level.
Threatening to kill him dead.
Noah's at 13. So right now, Wild Heart Invoker, Ondu Giant, 1-2. 2 tokens, which will become 3 tokens. So that would be 11 right now. If,
and that's assuming he plays nothing on his turn.
That's right, that would be 11 without doing anything, so 1 more creature would be enough. Assuming Noah has nothing, but Noah's got some stuff going on at the moment. It's just, which of his stuff will he be doing? Paolo just waits calmly. There you see him. He seems to have cooled down a bit since the quarterfinals. He went the full nearly 2 hours. And you can just see in the background Guillaume Matignon behind his Lighthouse Chronologist.
Enjoying his second turn.
Yeah. My turn. And my turn. Thanks. Yeah, the Chronologist can do some pretty silly things. There was a card that there was a little bit of buzz about whether people would try and make work in block constructing. We didn't really see that happen in the end. Just a little bit too far down the wacky line, I guess. And in fact, Guillaume Matignon, one of the reasons he's looking so cool is because he has indeed won game 1. Doesn't get to win 2 games with the extra turns, but he gets to comfortably win game 1 and leads Andrea Girolamo, the 18-year-old from Milan, the Italian, by 1-0. So Noah has made his choice. 5 mana, Totem Guide Heart Beast. What does he go for?
He's going to go get a Hyena Umbra. It's his only other target in his deck right now.
Okay, so that'll be the +1/+1 and first strike. And you see there that he has the planes available to put it somewhere. What does he do? Does he...
I'm pretty sure he's going to put it on his Heart Beast and use it to keep the Bloodthrone Vampire at bay.
Okay. Let's see where it goes. And BDM right again.
There may be too many words in that sentence, but
back we go to Paolo then. Who says, I'd like to reach out and Vendetta that.